If you asked any horror fan to list 5 movies that should like absolutely never be touched by a modern studio, 1981's Possession would like easily make the top 3. It's a movie that is like too unhinged and too far deeply tied to its specific like history to really ever work with like a polished modern Hollywood lens that is like specifically setting out to make this thing. But Hollywood's doing it anyway. Can this movie be remade in a way that captures this nightmare of a movie that was really never meant to be repeated? Or are we going to witness one of the most misguided remakes probably ever in movie history?
What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
Hey now.
Yo.
What's going on, Marvin?
What's up?
And what's
Happy
up,
Sunday.
folks? Happy Sunday. And what's up, folks at home? Welcome back to the Harsh Language Podcast. This is episode number 175. We're minus Dusty today.
Wow.
He's going on vacation, so wish him luck on his journey to wherever he's going. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't actually remember.
But
Isn't it up north somewhere? Like,
couldn't tell you. Who knows what he
Couldn't
goes?
tell
He
you.
does some crazy shit. But today is Make Marvin Watch Day, baby. It was my month, my pick, and given the recent egregious announcement that this movie was getting a remake, I chose Possession for Marvin to watch, the 1981 cult classic, iconic horror movie.
Yeah. You
So-
might not like me after this episode, Dan. I'll go ahead and preface everything with that.
I didn't expect you to like this movie, but I do think it's one that I think everybody should probably watch, especially if you like horror movies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we'll get into it. Yeah, this is a hit or miss. It's not. This is not a. This is a movie that I did, like. It's not. It's genuinely not for everybody, and it's not one that I understand. So no, there will be no controversy. But we will discuss it more later. So stick around, folks. I guess let's get into the news because we got a little bit of it, and
Okay.
Dusty's normally our newsman, folks, but he ain't here today, so I'm taking the reins. But we got a lot to talk about. I think we're starting to see a shift in the industry, right? We are currently in a period of like what many would call just slop, corporate slop,
Where
they just throw everything on a screen.
they're just they're just funneling it.
And it don't matter what it is. And
They're actually shoving it down our throats. Like if you think about it, really, it's like
yep.
force feeding almost.
Yeah. And I think with the advent of AI and the rise of AI use in the creative spaces, I think there's a lot of worry that like quality is going to deteriorate even more. But I'm starting to get a little bit hopeful, okay? Because the one thing that these corporate pigs don't understand is when people have had enough. They don't understand. They don't know when enough is enough. And I think people in a lot of industries are at their breaking point. And I think we're starting to see that. So we talked about a couple of weeks back, maybe a couple months ago, how like Gen Z was starting to buy more physical media and that physical media might be making a comeback. Well, PlayStation is deleting over 500 purchased movies from its customers' accounts.
This is so bad.
So that includes, it's terrible. So that includes.
It was already bad when like when Netflix removes something that's been up there for a long ass time or whatever. Yeah. That's one thing. But when you purchase something, like you literally purchased it, right? Normally purchase means you own that until you sell it or whatever. Yeah. Not in this case, I guess.
Not in this case.
Not good.
Due to our content licensing, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Studio Canal content and the content will be removed from your video library. Thank you. What a letter. Can you imagine?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's like a Trump sign-off. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So that includes.
And it wasn't just some. Yeah, you're about to read the list, but it wasn't just some like, oh shit, that's whatever. I don't care about that.
No,
it's like Terminator 2. Yeah, what else? What else
includes movies like Terminator 2, Rambo, Apocalypse Now, Hot Fuzz, Moonlight.
All rewatchable, very rewatchable movies too, right? Like, holy shit.
I mean, here's the list. I'm not going to read them all, but I'll scroll through quick so you can see how long this is. I mean,
yeah, bro.
This is like hundreds of movies.
Holy.
Now, now.
Damn, Moonlight. Saw Moonlight on there.
Oh, yeah. Now, here's what's crazy about this, right? I'm still scrolling, by the way. Still scrolling.
Still scrolling. Train to Busan? Oh, my God.
So here's the crazy part, right? It's crazy for a lot of reasons. But when you market your thing, not just as a gaming console, but as a media center,
right?
You're leading your customers to believe that they could own media on this device.
Right.
And like you just said, ownership generally means
it's mine.
It's yours. Forever.
Yeah.
But no longer. Apparently the definition of ownership has been changed without anybody knowing behind the scenes.
Insane.
Because the same thing happens with Amazon. They could remove something at any time and it's not yours anymore, even if you bought it.
Yep.
And so it begs the question, we've talked about it before. If ownership is not, if purchasing something is not ownership, then surely pirating something isn't stealing. Right?
I would have to agree. If this is the path we're going down, I have no choice but to agree.
Now I know this is a really negative story, and I know that this is like it's really shitty for a lot of people who spent money on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But here you go. This is the answer right here. This is what this guy said. He replied to this with a picture. And so I see something positive coming out of this, because really what's happening is they're just forcing people back into physical media.
Yeah.
So I said at the start of this is that like it's never enough for them, for the fat cats, right? They don't know when is enough. They got us by the balls right now, but they don't know that they're slowly pushing us back. They're gonna reshape the landscape back to physical media. So
or they're gonna push more people into pirating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, both things will be the case. Yeah. Because physical media has to be available in order to purchase it for sure. But for now,
right.
Look at this. Somebody posted this. Play has no limits. But this comes off this came at the same time when there was GTA 6 just announced that not only is their game going to be $80, everybody was waiting for the price point. That's a fair price, I guess, for the amount of time they put into it and how big of a game it's going to be. It's not coming with any online capability off the bat. That's coming later. There is some small fine print that suggests that it may come with a $8 subscription fee
to the game.
Oh yeah,
not including whatever you pay for.
Apparently, yeah.
PSN. Wow.
And
that's new.
And guess what?
Other games do that, like World of Warcraft does that, but that's new for a I guess AAA game that you pay a premium for.
Mm-hmm.
You don't usually pay a subscription, right?
Nope.
Like I'm trying to think.
Not usually, no. And that could be, I mean, that I might be mistaken on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be confirmed. I don't know the details. But not only that, you're not getting a disc. You're not.
That's crazy.
They're not releasing a physical copy of GTA 6. They're just releasing the game. You pay for the download.
Another big issue with that, like, I think Steam has a decent thing for this, which like you store the license like
doesn't
locally
matter.
on your
It's not
computer or
coming to
something.
Steam.
Like, well, I'm just saying, like,
Eventually
just
it is,
as far as like the digital approach, like,
yeah.
I don't know if you could play a PlayStation 5 game without it doing like the internet check to make sure you own it or whatever, right? Like, can you do that?
Say that again?
So you know how you have to be connected to the internet sometimes for them to check if you own the game?
Oh, yeah.
Like, how does that work? Do you just, like, if you bought this digitally, downloaded it at the library or whatever the fuck you downloaded it at?
I couldn't tell you, but I could tell you one thing. They are for sure coordinating their effort with the higher ups, because there is, I don't know if you've been paying a lot of attention to it, but there's been this like broader push towards cloud gaming.
Ooh, disgusting.
There's a lot of like people on Twitter talking about, well, if your console at home is idle, it's actually less efficient than just cloud compute. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. So they're trying to push people into this particular direction of non-ownership. Remember, we said it. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That was the quote.
You will. Yep.
And that's what they're trying to do. And I don't think people are going to react very highly to it. And if you want to with gamers, then like good luck, because gamers will come at your throat, I think.
I think so.
So I think
gamers do a decent job of protesting, I feel like.
So, you know, while we're, I think we might start to see a period of some snapback, if you will, over the next 5 years. Maybe we'll see things sort of correct themselves, especially with other things going on in government. But, you know, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so if you're one of those people who have been victimized by Sony,
is there a class action coming out of this? Like,
there should be.
Yeah.
There should be, for sure. But I'm sure that in the fine print somewhere, when you bought something on their marketplace, you agree to it and whatever.
It's true.
But yeah, so I brought that up because it's part of a broader thing I want to say about the industry, right? Everybody's like, oh, you know, movies are dead, this is that, but I don't think that's the case, because you have stuff like Widow's Bay, you have stuff like whatever. People just want originality, and I argued this last time we talked with like Obsession. Obsession is on pace to become, or probably is at this point, but it's like one of the most profitable movies ever made. And it's that because it's good, it's word of mouth, it's original, and it's made by an up and coming person. And my that argument is backed up by some interviews that recently took place here. So Steven Spielberg has a movie out right now, Disclosure Day. And I don't believe it's getting the greatest reviews. It's currently at a 6.7 on IMDb, not bad. But I think it's like one of his weakest openings for a Spielberg movie. But regardless, Hollywood Reporter wanted to know what Steven Spielberg means to Gen Z. And they went around and they were interviewing people, like some 20-something year olds. Because, you know, it's been a month now that Obsession has been out. Curry Barker directed that. He's 20-something years old. Kane Parsons, who did Backrooms. Both of those movies are making box office history. They're both YouTubers, really. We see the brothers who made like Bring Her Back. They're YouTubers. So there's this new generation of filmmakers coming up. Well, the Hollywood Reporter wanted to know what moviegoers think of legendary filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and whether or not they still carry weight with this new generation of filmmakers. So they went around Washington Square Park here in New York, and they were just asking some, I guess, NYU students and just kids walking around to discuss the current state of the film industry. And Steven Spielberg is 79 years old, right? So he's up there. But they were asking these kids what they think about him, and so here are some quotes. We got. I'm first going to have to look at some of these movies, said many of the participants initially. And then Hollywood Reporter started listing them off. And one person quoted, "Oh, Jaws was genuinely one of the first movies that I remember." Katie Young, 21-year-old student, She said, quote, because when I was a kid, I thought that when somebody died in a movie, they actually died in the movie, says Young. The scene where the guy goes down and gets torn apart in the cage, that doesn't happen. That's a false memory. I literally thought that he sacrificed his life for that movie, and I was in tears for like 2 weeks, literally. It had such a visceral effect on me.
She's thinking of Deep Blue Sea or some shit.
No, she's thinking of the scene where Hooper goes down in the cage and the shark is like going after it. But he doesn't die.
Oh, okay.
You remember when he's trying to stick it with the poison?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So basically, the sum of this article is that a lot of Gen Zers aren't super either familiar with some of these classic movies, like you, Marvin. They should watch the podcast. Or they don't care. So somebody else said, quote, it's tapped in, she says, of Gen Z audiences and the filmmaker. However, she admits, quote, I think a lot of our generation is really into grassroots things, whether it's directors from YouTube or low budget movies. A lot of these big directors, they're appealing to these broad things, and there's all these flashing images. I mean, even the Marvel movies, they're just throwing so much stuff at you. If you really feel like they're not, catering to you.
Interesting.
Goes on to say, sure, we've all watched them, and some people probably grow up watching them all the time, but I don't think they're the movies people my age are going to look back on in 20 years and say, I watched that all the time. They'll probably think about films that came out more recently. So that begs the question, Marvin, what does this new generation of moviegoers want to see? Well, like I said, when we talked about now we didn't talk about Obsession reviewing it, but when we covered the fact that it's like doing really well, while other movies were doing really bad because it opened alongside Mandalorian and Grogu.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
That did really bad. And now what we're going to talk about in a minute. But this girl who's being interviewed, she goes on to say that that type of grassroots filmmaking, it's more attractive to audiences my age than a Marvel, DC, or even a big budget A24 movie at this point. If it's a movie that doesn't look like much effort was put into it, but has a good story, that's just way more attractive. So audiences will tell you what they want.
That's true.
Now, we spend a lot of time talking about how Hollywood has been inundated with these big budget movies that have no soul. They have no originality to them. Some of them are just straight up remakes or ripoffs or reboots. And audiences are tired of it.
It is true.
Eventually, you're just going to push people away. Okay?
Yeah.
And so, I don't understand how executives get their jobs because they're fucking stupid. Last but not least, on theme for the day, for this episode, it seems, is that A24 fans are currently mourning its death after the studio that put out Backrooms just signed a $75 million deal with Google AI. Okay. And
are they pulling the trigger too early with their judgment? Like, do we even know what the deal entails?
Well,
do people just say AI and they see AI and they're just like,
yes,
like the world Bloody Mary.
Yeah, the world is very resistant to AI, and rightfully so.
They should be, but we should see the details of this agreement before we even assume, right? Like,
I mean, we reported on it a while back that A24 was kind of looking to broaden its, I guess,
reach.
They wanted to start doing bigger movies. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah, I remember.
And it seems like this is right on par with wanting to do that. But they are. Yeah, I mean, listen. You say AI is like a dirty word for a lot of people, and rightfully so. So apparently, this was detailed by the Wall Street Journal. Google's investing $75 million into A24 via its parent company Alphabet. The research partner deal will give A24 access to Google DeepMind, the artificial intelligence research laboratory purchased by Google in 2014. According to the report, Google's AI tech will be used to create tools for, quote, movie production and distribution. A24's Scott Belsky stated that his production division primarily intends to use Google DeepMind for storyboarding. Belsky was, however, quick to state that said storyboards won't look anything like prompted generation type of AI that people are uncomfortable with. Now, rest in peace, A24.
Yeah. I can see the use if they're just talking about organizing thoughts, but I can't imagine Google invests $75 million for organizing thoughts with AI, right? Like you can do that shit with.
This is similar
the
to
basic
what,
Chat GPT.
This is
Chat GPT 1 or whatever.
Yeah, this is similar to what Steven Spielberg said. Like, oh, I just want to use it for like, scouting locations, and it's like, so why do you need $75 million deal to do it?
There's no way. Yeah.
So yeah, the deal represents the latest marriage between a Hollywood studio and AI in an era where companies have oscillated between partnerships and lawsuits. Disney's short-lived deal with OpenAI to license its suite of characters came as it sued AI companies like Minimax and Midjourney for copyright infringement, while Lionsgate expanded its partnership with the AI firm Runway AI to develop new intellectual property and produce AI-generated shows drawing from its existing franchises. Netflix also purchased Ben Affleck's AI startup Interpositive, aimed at building tools for filmmakers earlier this year. So Scott Belsky said, we think there are better uses that preserve creative control and support risk-taking, arguing the new tools won't look anything like the prompted generation type, whatever. I read that already. We believe breakthroughs happen when you get technology into the hands of the best minds in the field.
What a shame.
A24.
They've had so many bangers that we enjoyed.
I mean, yeah, A24 is a banger company. I mean, they just so many movies. I mean, like,
your favorite, Beau is Afraid, was one of
Everything Everywhere All at Once, Marty Supreme, Backrooms, Moonlight, like Lady Bird. The list is endless.
War.
You make a good argument, like, yeah, let's wait to see what they do. It doesn't mean their whole quality, is gonna come crashing down. But again, it doesn't.
It is quite the stain.
It does not bode well, because what do these companies want to do with AI? I'm not saying this is A24's goal, but like, we're starting to eliminate workers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When workers are already getting the shit into the stick. Yeah.
And so, this is like, again, it's just trending in a certain direction. But Guillermo del Toro, the GOAT, he weighed in on AI, and he said that, he won't sell out. He'll never sell out. He said AI is a form of natural stupidity. Quote, we are on the verge of image illiteracy. We are on the verge of cinema illiteracy. The pact between man and image is sacred, but we are in a time when that is in danger. We are told images can be generated by artificial means. The existence of an image is not just to be there. It is to connect us, to make us feel beauty, he said.
That's really real, because, listen, everything about like art, like old artwork, for example, is the fact. Most of it is the fact that it was made by a human being.
Cave drawings, hieroglyphics. Some of our earliest things are images.
That too. I was even thinking about like Michelangelo and shit, like where they're making these exquisite.
But storytelling goes as far back as cavemen. That's what they were doing, drawing on walls to talk about the world around them and how they saw things, and like that is now. Yeah. I mean, if people get their way, like that'll be less and less human. So, I like that.
Keep the AI, send the AI to the moon and shit. Like we don't need AI making the art. AI could have a lot of good uses. Yeah. We don't need it for art. There's plenty of things AI could do that humans even can't do, right? Like going to the Mars or some shit, right? Like it's crazy.
Use AI to, I don't mind using AI to storyboard, fine. But like,
that's 75 mil. Like,
let's just,
there's no way.
I'll storyboard.
You can pay me, pay me and Dan 75 mil. We'll organize and get it. Yeah, let's go.
So last piece of news I got here. It's not really news, but it's on brand. Dusty likes to do little transition pieces, so I made one myself. We're talking about the potentiality of a remake today for a classic that doesn't need a remake. Well, another one that doesn't need a remake. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And speaking of A24, this is being done by, I don't think it's a remake, but it's Curry Barker. Curry Barker is the director of Obsession. And he is quite the star at the moment because of Obsession and its success. He said on his Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, quote, "I want to make a new generation of people scared and give them this feeling of, what if you went on a road trip with your friends and this happened to you? I want to capture the rawness and the groundedness of the original. I wouldn't be interested if I didn't think I could find a way in that feels fresh and new while still respecting the original. The canon itself is all over the place, so there's not much to stay loyal to other than the original. He watched all 10 films in the franchise to prepare for developing it."
Damn.
Quote,
10? I didn't even know there was 10.
Oh, yeah. Quote, "Some of these movies turn out to be the guy with a chainsaw chasing a person around. He doesn't work to just have a chase. It doesn't work to just have a chase movie. They're hiding in a barn. It gets old, and I don't buy it. A chainsaw is loud, but they don't hear it. I hate when you're watching a movie and you're thinking, just do this instead."
Oh, Dusty would love this guy.
Yeah. So, what does that mean? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But
yeah, it sounds great. Like he's hyping it up a lot, but
but
we've been let down.
Let things exist. We don't need more things. We don't need more of it.
True.
One of the most iconic.
That's true. There's enough stuff already.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like one of the greatest American films ever made. Like it's
right.
We don't need to touch it, but whatever. We'll see.
Yeah.
So that's all the news I got today. So let's move on to this week's review. And of course, it is a Make Marvin Watch Day, folks. Marvin hasn't seen shit. And so once a month, Dusty and I get together and we take turns picking a movie that we think Marvin should see that he hasn't. Well, in the spirit of remakes and movies that don't need them, and this one is just the most egregious I think I've ever heard. We're talking about the original Possession today. If you asked any horror fan to list 5 movies that should like absolutely never be touched by a modern studio, 1981's Possession would like easily make the top 3. It's a movie that is like too unhinged and too far deeply tied to its specific like history and its 1980s history to really ever work with like a polished modern Hollywood lens that is like specifically setting out to make this thing. But Hollywood's doing it anyway. A new remake is underway starring Margaret Qualley. She was in The Substance. And since this, and it's also being made by the Smile director, whom I hate those movies, as you know. And so with this news, I have to ask the ultimate question, and that is, can this movie be remade in a way that captures this nightmare of a movie that was really never meant to be repeated? Or are we going to witness one of the most misguided remakes probably ever in movie history? I would say the latter. So this movie, Possession.
Do we know who's starring alongside her?
Yeah, I don't even know his name. He's from.
Oh, okay.
His name is Caleb Turner. He was in. Most recently, he was in this movie Eternity. It was a rom-com that was like okay.
Oh, okay.
And whatever. He's like, I don't really know anything else with him. So he's like kind of I think he was in like Fantastic Beasts and some other stuff.
Oh, okay.
Nothing that I'm really familiar with.
Yeah.
Oh, he was in
Did you watch that Eternity?
Back. Yeah, I liked Eternity.
Oh, you watched it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember I told you guys about it a while back?
I don't, but I mean, if there's a rom-com, you've probably seen it. So
yeah, it was like a nothing movie. But other than that, he's really been in like nothing really major. So he's a little bit of a no-name guy. Not that sounds mean, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is directed by Andrei Zulawski. I think I pronounced that incorrectly, but it is. And it stars a very young Sam Neill. of Jurassic Park fame, and Isabelle Adjani.
Which is crazy because I was like, bro, he looked so familiar, but he was so young. It was like,
did you figure
I couldn't
it
put
out?
my head. I didn't.
Oh, wow.
He didn't have. Did he have an accent in Jurassic Park?
No, he did he put on the American accent for Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Well, I thought he was American, so that's outstanding.
Yeah. And this is this is considered like to be like a masterpiece of a movie. It's a little bit avant-garde in the way it's filmed, and obviously it's subject matter, and by avant-garde I mean like very like experimental. Like, I'm sure it's part of the reason why you don't like it. If you don't like it, I'm kind of just assuming based on what you said earlier. But and, we'll get into all that. But
yeah,
just real quickly, like, this is something that is like a flash in a pan. It's like lightning in a bottle. Like, everything perfectly came together to make this what it was naturally in that moment. So to set out to purposefully remake it is very bizarre to me. It seems very bizarre. And so I want to know, like, can it actually be remade? And I think you could have two camps. I think horror movie fans who have seen this will probably agree with my side of it, which is like, this is the sum of like unrepeatable parts. You can't copy. You could copy the plot, right? But you can't copy the director's like personal rage that he put into making this movie when he wrote it. Johnny's specific like psychological breakdown that we'll talk about. At the same time, there's like subtext of the Berlin Wall being up at the time and like the divided parts of that, or the like practical creature effects in this movie. Obviously now CGI is like very heavily relied upon in Hollywood. Yeah. And so I think a remake would inevitably just produce like this just empty thing that looks like this, but not really. Now, I think there's a whole second camp, and you're a man of logic, Marvin, and I think you could fall into this camp easily because you've kind of said this similar argument before. There are other remakes. Your faves. There are remakes out. Go ahead, Marvin. You give your point. You've said it before. My point before was with I think it was Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm pretty sure it was, where I said The Thing.
I thought it. No, I was saying I was saying it could have, because we talked about what's my guy?
Harrison Ford
can't be replaced, yada yada. And I was on the side where I thought it actually could be replaced, in my opinion.
And I was going to give you a little more credit because you argued back with me one time. You kind of stunned me. You stun locked me because you said like, well, you love The Thing. The Thing is a remake. And that's true.
Exactly.
Remakes,
technically it is a remake.
Remakes do exist that are very good. The Fly is a remake. The Thing is a remake.
Yeah.
Both movies are better than their originals.
The list is very small though, because we pulled up the list. The list is like extremely small. Yeah.
So there might be some people out there saying that dismissing a remake before it exists is not it's not wise. It's just nostalgia. You're just defending it based on nostalgia and not actual film criticism. Some people a lot of people love Parker Finn. He's the guy who directed Smile 1 and 2. They think those movies are great and that we should maybe give it a chance. Hate those movies. Hate. Not
great. I enjoyed them though. They were good. With the difference with remakeability though, the way we've talked about it usually comes down to like actors in certain roles, like with Harrison Ford, with Indy. I think the difference with this may be, like you said, the director's rage itself. Like, unless the next director is also going through a terrible divorce or something, right? Like, I don't know if you can recreate that same spark.
I don't think so.
The same way someone could recreate like a role such as Indy. Like, it's a little bit different.
It is very different, yeah. But let's see which camp we fall into, and we want to hear your thoughts too, folks. But briefly, this is about Sam Neill's character. He plays Mark. He's a spy, and he comes home from a mission.
I thought he was a PI. I'll just go ahead and say.
Nah,
it was more PI vibes than spy. The spy.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
So he comes home to West Berlin after like this mysterious absence, and he finds that his wife Anna, played by Isabella Gianni, wants a divorce, and that she's having an affair. But we come to realize that it's something much more sinister than just a extramarital affair. She's actually living in a like derelict, decaying apartment where she's been nurturing this like tentacled, like Lovecraftian blob of DNA, really, and flesh.
Yeah.
And I
thought it was like the devil instantly, by the way. I didn't think it was a fucking blob.
I thought it was the devil.
I thought it was like, well, I thought it was kind of like Rosemary's Baby vibes. Like it definitely was a little bit of that going on at first, and then
it does have those vibes.
Yeah.
But the movie quickly escalates into this psychological and like sort of like physical disintegration where both characters are like just falling apart as their marriage is also falling apart. And the creature is really like, it's meant to be, it's both literal for the movie, but also allegorical, where it's like, it's actually like a physical manifestation of all the resentment and agony and like stuff within this marriage between these two people that sort of like is at the core of their failing relationship that manifests in this like sort of physical entity. That's kind of like what it's meant to be taken as. But
yeah,
go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna respond to that piece. Like just watching it for the first time, I didn't really get that until I kind of looked at some people's thoughts afterwards.
And that's fair, yeah.
The movie started off on 10, and so when you say escalated, I just kind of laugh because it's like it just instantly was escalated. It felt like it was just kind of like
it's very the way it's
0
shot
to 100
is very fast. Like there's like a lot of the cuts are very jarring. It's like sometimes like if you're not paying attention, you're like, wait, what the f just happened? Like you're in like it's like a total because sometimes it's like this is what I say. It's like avant-garde. It goes from like this dude is smiling on the phone, and the next scene she's like screaming in his face, like on the couch. You're like, wait, what is happening?
Yeah. It was very jarring. Yeah.
So to set up some of the like there's like a geopolitical sort of like underlying tone to this because like I said the Berlin Wall, there are some people that think that like the doppelgangers that it turns out to be is like that geopolitical allegory, but I don't really know. I've never kind of like really dug into the theories behind that. But what I think is more interesting is actually Andrei Zulawski's actual inspiration for this movie. He was you touched on it briefly. He was going through a really painful real life divorce from actress Malgorzata Bronek, I think is how it's pronounced, when he made this movie. So Possession wasn't a calculated like studio movie. It's not like he set out to say like, I want to make this movie about this thing. It's like literally like a personal exorcism, like to help him deal with the trauma of his own divorce.
Right.
And so it was shot on location. Like it's very raw and rough around the edges. Like the audio is bad in it. Like you could hardly hear them talking sometimes because like they're echoing in like a room or a hallway that they're talking in.
I had to turn on subtitles. Not gonna lie. I know you hate subs for the most part, but I had to for this. There's just no way.
And so it just feels very like just visceral. And it won Isabella Gianni a Best Actress award at Cannes Film Festival. And she famously said that she would never do anything like this ever again, and that it took her several years of therapy to actually like recover from this role.
It was like Heath Ledger Joker vibes from that actress.
Crazy.
Like definitely crazier, but like just insane how much she put into it for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that she had to go through therapy.
No, the movie was banned in the UK as a video nasty. It was heavily cut.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. It was heavily cut for its US release, and it was kind of suppressed for like decades before it eventually became known as like the masterpiece that it is. Carlo Rambaldi was the creature effect guy. He built the creature effects for Alien and E.T. So some heavy hitter. there.
Some great it was practical. Yeah,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
1981. Come on, Marvin.
80s, yeah.
We didn't have the tech back then.
That's actually I was so confused because the way it was shot, I was a little confused at the beginning. Like I was like, this is 80s. This feels like maybe 90s even, or like late 90s. Like it was shot. It didn't feel like an 80s movie the way it was shot.
So this was your first time watching it. I know you weren't familiar with it when I originally brought it up a couple weeks ago. What was your first impressions here?
First impressions were that I was basically confused after the first maybe 40 minutes of when it kind of goes off the rails is where I'm like, what's actually going on here? I don't really know. I'm not really following.
I don't think you're supposed to know, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think you are either. I still I feel like it's just everything is kind of like up for interpretation. Like
yeah.
The bones are there, like it's about the divorce or the breakup, but I wish it was a little more straightforward. Yeah, that's my biggest complaint with this.
Okay.
Because I watched it with C too, and we were kind of pretty confused, especially like the last 30 minutes. It's like, what the f is happening?
You guys just end it. It's like, it's not even worth it being in a relationship. I'll catch you later.
Yeah.
GG's. It was good while it lasted.
It was good while it lasted. Yeah.
I mean, so did the divorce allegory like land for you emotionally, or did the surreal, like crazy bullshit, like kind of like keep it from landing?
It kind of kept it from, I mean, it made sense. Like I said, after I looked up explanations really. And I kind of hated that I had to rely on that. Like it didn't really stick. I was just confused after watching it. Like it didn't really stick. All those like subliminal things and like how he's like, they're basically like going out and dating the same people, like creating the same patterns and all those type of things. Like I didn't really pick up on that. Maybe I'm not smart enough to have picked up on it or whatever, but
that's not true.
It wasn't like apparent, like to me, like that's what they were aiming for. But it made sense after reading someone say it.
I don't think it's supposed to be, because like when you think about like this is him like dumping, he's like trauma dumping into this movie. And so if you think about like, I think the early on in the movie where it is pretty apparent that they're obviously going through a divorce, like she doesn't want to sleep with him anymore, and like there's that, and then there's like obviously it cuts away and it's like very jarring, but like then you see this moment where he's been in like this like alcoholic
for 3 weeks
period.
Dude, that was so sad. I felt so bad for the kid. I was like, holy shit.
So like there are moments where you see the marital breakdown.
Yeah.
And then you could kind of translate that into like real life thinking of like, I think that there's one scene in the kitchen where it's like really evident where he's like, please just tell me like what the problem is. Like maybe it'll help. Like, I don't understand. And so like if you
parts, I picked up on those for sure.
If you think about like the psychological torment of like not really like, I think it's actually heartbreaking because like in relationships, like sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just fall out of love with somebody for whatever reason. You know what I mean? And it's
like they can't even explain it to you when you are asking them. Yeah. So that's a good point.
If you are I think it's often unfairly weighted in those situations, right? Where the person who is getting broken up with is often seen as the victim, rightfully so.
She even said that, right? Like you're looking for someone to be bad, and she's like, we're both not bad or good, but
right. But
she was essentially kind of taking the blame.
She was also tormented by the fact that she couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's often underlooked. Like it's probably just as painful for the person who is falling out of love as it is for the other person.
Yeah.
And so I think the movie represents that really well. And then when you look back on it and of all the crazy shit that's happening, really the horror stuff that happens is kind of tertiary and doesn't matter. And that's probably why it's unexplained a lot or doesn't have an explanation, because it doesn't matter. It's just there to like symbolically represent like how crazy you feel going through something like this. Yeah. It's kind of how I've always taken it. I've only watched this movie ever like a few times in my life because it's like, it is a pretty hard movie to watch. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's not one I'm going to sit down and be like, tough. I want to watch Possession. Like, that movie makes me feel great. Like, because it doesn't.
It doesn't make you feel great. I do want to rewatch it with the lens of kind of understanding more.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that you will pick up more on later for sure.
Yeah. Like you could kind of see like, oh, this is what they were going for with this psychotic thing that was happening. Like,
yeah,
makes more sense. Yeah.
So it seems like you mostly enjoyed it. So why'd you say early on that I was going to not like you after this one?
Because it's going to be the first one that I don't give a perfect rating, I think.
That's okay.
So that's probably why.
No, that's okay.
The first Make Marvin watch, that won't be a perfect rating.
That's okay.
So, spoilers.
So getting into the central argument here, like why do I think this movie cannot be replicated? Because like I said, this was like a very natural, like sort of trauma dump of a movie, and Andrzej Zulawski was notably like very like demanding of the actors in the movie, and like tried to make them like be traumatized essentially. And you could really see that come out in the acting. Like, this is a role from both of them, really, but her specifically. And you know, what do we say? Her role, this role is like probably one of the best examples of acting like ever in the history of movies. But so there's not much I could say that hasn't been said about it. But like, she goes to a level of like just psychotic. I don't even know what you would call it. That I've never seen before and replicated in another movie like this. Like you mentioned the Joker, and that's like, you know, we know that Heath Ledger
that even doesn't really hold a candle to it. Like,
no,
he does. He did go to the same like levels, you know, preparation wise, right?
Yeah.
But actual on screen performance wise wasn't the same.
I mean, obviously, notably the subway scene, where she is having this like violent, demonic miscarriage.
The goop was insane in this movie. It was all over the place.
So like that is a scene of just like this intense like psychological collapse. And she's like, not only is it like emotionally traumatizing, but like physically she's like, oh, like doing all this crazy contortions and body movements and like, it's just unbelievable. And, you know, she said like it took her years to recover and that she would never do it again. That's not a description of a performance. That is a description of like surviving something.
Yeah. Seriously.
Now actors talk a lot, like sometimes when actors talk about roles, they seem kind of like pretentious, like, yeah, I transform. But like part of the craft of acting is like becoming the character.
Yeah.
And like getting into the headspace. You hear a lot of times of like method acting where like actors like stay in the role even when they're not filming.
Right. Yeah.
And stuff like that. So imagine it sounds stupid because it's like, well, you're just acting, but it's not that. In order to sell something that's this believable, you have to like really like mentally go through that.
Straight up. Yep.
And
100%.
So a remake like faces, I think, an impossible thing. It's like either you find an actress who's willing to go to the same place, right?
And ruin her life.
but that's also assuming that like modern on-set safety standards like even allow that, which they wouldn't, because there's a lot of new safety rules and like, you know, there's like you have like people that stand by for like sex scenes to make sure like nothing's like it's much different now.
Right.
So you have to either get somebody and have it be allowed to be made and find somebody willing to do it, or you have no choice but to tone it down. And if you're toning it down, it removes the entire reason why this movie works.
Yeah, you're ruining it. Yep.
So like, what do we do?
Yep.
What do we remake?
Right.
What are we going to what is this new movie going to be?
Right. Exactly.
It's going to be a toned down, neutered piece of shit.
Yeah.
That's with CGI. They're going to go heavy on like creature CGI and jump scares and all this bullshit. The same way Smile was. And then the other thing too is like any actress, I mean, it's obviously we know who the actress is, but she's inevitably going to be compared to Isabella Gianni.
Right.
She's not going to live up to that.
Yeah.
So you're already starting out failing.
Yeah. The baseline is you fail. Yeah. That's not a good, not even like you make a mid movie. You just,
it's an unwinnable comparison. And you, again, you brought up Heath Ledger and like, that was one interpretation of the Joker that followed another really good interpretation of the Joker with Jack Nicholson. But like every Joker from now until the end of time is going to be compared to Heath Ledger, and none of them are going to live up to it.
Right.
So it's just, and this is like times a million. I mean, Sam Neill's performance too goes a little bit underappreciated in this movie because she's the standout, obviously, but his performance is equally as important and as extreme, I think. Like, he is just a desperate man, like at the end of his, like, doesn't know what to do, completely unraveling.
He's so desperate that he made me think he was the possessed one at some point, right? Which is funny because neither of them are really possessed.
No, that's just the allegory. They are possessed. They're possessed by. But
they are possessed.
Trump, like it is a possession.
Yeah, but he gets so distraught and like whatever that he's like. You think he's possessed? Like, okay, this guy's actually the villain here. Like,
yeah, and
he's off the hinges. Like, this is insane.
And both roles are not the work of actors like hitting their marks. Like, okay, do this, this, and this. This is a man and a woman. This is a man being pushed to his limit by a director who is in his own private hell, and an actress being pushed to her limit. And that just it could just never be redone.
Yeah. It had to be a hectic.
Oh my God. Imagine needing therapy to like recover from a role that you took as an actor. Like, give me a break.
Because the director's probably like, no, do it again.
Yeah.
But more.
As he's like,
and
just
it's like
shaking in the corner.
And he's probably, he's like crying. He's probably crying. Everybody's crying. I can't imagine, dude.
You couldn't even, they wouldn't even allow it today. Like, there's too many standards now. And
he would get canceled. He would get canceled. Like, he would like, no.
So
impossible to work with this director.
The other thing too is like the Berlin Wall can't be recreated. Like, the movie was shot on location in West Berlin during the Cold War. The wall is not just a backdrop in the movie. It is a character.
So is that where those soldiers were on?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
That was the wall right outside of her derelict apartment.
Yeah.
And
that part was trippy too. Like, that shit. Like, it just confused me even more. Like, what is this? Is this a government experiment? There was like vibes of like government experiments with the dead dog and this shit. Like, it was crazy. It was insane.
So the wall is like a character of its own, and every scene framed against the wall is a scene about two people who are like sort of, I guess, bound together, but like they're not able to like coexist or be together, which causes each other's destruction. Like, that's the ultimate tragedy of love, right? Like, you could love somebody so much, but still not be compatible with them. You know?
Sure.
It's just a matter of whether or not your love can overcome that and you could coexist, but oftentimes it can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something that's like a tough pill to swallow in life, right? But it is what it is. But so the wall.
She also was dealing with him being like a spy, I guess, right? And then being gone for how many months at a time? Who even really knows, right?
Exactly.
Like, so it's easy to paint her as the villain, but she's like the loneliest woman, you know, like.
I mean, it's tough when you're, I mean, how many marriages, I mean, you see it a lot with like police and even not just like being away, but also like being so invested in your work and stuff like that.
Like your work. Yeah. Like in Heat.
Like in Heat.
Yeah.
Or like any cop fucking movie ever, because cops are just always like, I'm an alcoholic and I'm in a bad marriage, but never around. I'm just doing my work. It's like the classic.
That's true. It is the classic
cop
trope.
Story. But
the
started by
man.
Heat.
Started by
but like so where do you set a remake in modern Berlin where there's no wall?
You gotta set the remake in,
are you?
I don't know, Palestine or something. Like, what else compares to? Like, I don't even know. Dude.
Are you remaking like a 1980s Berlin through like set production design and stuff? Then why are you remaking it to begin with?
Yeah.
Because then you're turning what is essentially like this movie is essentially like a documentary. It is. It almost is in a sense.
Yeah.
And so you're turning that into like this like sterile like period movie. Like, I don't even know like how you would do it. There's no modern equivalent that compares to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't even like all the main characters were like, when I say main characters, I'm thinking of like the husband, the wife, and then the guy that she was having the affair with.
Heinrich.
Like, you can't, Heinrich. You can't, I don't even think anybody can emulate his performance.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in a movie.
It's the weirdest thing.
He's just like some
but it makes sense when you think about
guy. Yeah.
It makes sense when you think about like being cheated on, and you think about the person that they're cheating on as like the perfect person almost. Like he could fight. He's like a sex machine. He rides a motorcycle.
Yeah.
It's like
he's a sex machine.
That's the only way I can describe it. Like this guy's he's got everything going for him. Yeah.
So, and then finally, as we said, the writer director Andrei Zulawski, like his personal trauma can't be manufactured. Like that's not something that you could just create.
No.
He wasn't making a horror film. He was making like I said, a confession, like an exorcism. Like he was trying to like deal with his own issues.
Yep.
And his notorious practice, like I said, of pushing these actors to their like psychological extremes. It wasn't like a technique that he had as a director. It wasn't like that's not what he was known for. You know what I mean? Like it was him trying to make other people feel what he was feeling in his actual life.
Yeah.
And put it on screen. And so like Parker Finn is going to be approaching this from the outside, like analytically, like we were talking about it, and intellectually as like a problem to solve, like as a craft. How do I do this thing? That's tough. And they could copy every scene one to one, but they can't copy the specific self-destructive rage that he must have been feeling at that time, and sort of dealing with his own nightmare. Like you can't do it. You just can't.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, like you just are literally, you're basically on edge the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like from
it makes you feel crazy.
The weird pans from left to right. It's like, dude, what is? It's like I'm in a fucking haunted house or something. Like, what's going on here? It's creeping me out just thinking about it now.
It's like Jacob's Ladder, but like ramped up to a million.
It is. It's very much.
Where you're
like
just
that,
like, wow, I am actually a crazy person. Wow.
Yeah.
And then finally, like we said, the practical effects that were done really brilliantly by Carlo Rambaldi, like they're intentionally weird. Like they're ambiguous. It's slimy, fleshy. It's like wrong, and not in a way that like, not because it's a physical thing, but it's like, I don't know. It's weird. It's only in a way that like human hands could build. Like, so it existed in the same room as these actors and stuff. And so you get to see their actual like a revulsion and like reaction to it. Like a contemporary remake is just going to have CGI. Like it's just almost certainly going to have CGI. So I don't know. It's just that it won't work the same. Especially the first time it pops up when the private eye goes in the bathroom and like you can barely make it out, and you hear it, and it's like, what are we looking at in there? You remember?
Dude, yeah. The first time you see it, it's like, oh, this is nothing like I thought it was. It's definitely not Satan. It's worse.
It's definitely not Satan. It's just a blob.
It's like, okay, this is what's happening.
Oh, and mentioned,
not only did she birth this thing, possibly she's having sex with it or something. I don't even know what's happening.
She did birth it. She said she
birthed it and she's having sex with it. Was that accurate?
She miscarried what'd she call it? The
faith or chance, one of them.
She miscarried chance, faith, right? And this was chance.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you mentioned the camera work, which is very frenetic, and like there's like a lot of claustrophobia in the movie, like in the kitchen and like in the hallways of this building, and like the camera pans, and it's like the cuts
and the close-ups.
Like it's just a very weird and stylistic thing that kind of just makes you feel uncomfortable. It all just like makes you feel weird and uncomfortable is the best way to describe it. And so like
100%.
It's all a product of just a very specific, chaotic, and probably somewhat dangerous shoot, I would imagine. To drive it home, I think this movie works because every element of it is genuinely unrepeatable. Not difficult to repeat, not repeatable. It's not possible. The performance nearly destroyed the actress. The director was in genuine personal crisis. The location no longer exists as it did. The creature was built by a craftsman who's no longer alive in a time when that craft is no longer valued as it once was. A remake can copy the plot. It could copy the scenes, but it can't. It could hire talent. You could have all the talented people in the world and all the real money, but it still could not do what this movie did because it would be manufactured. It wouldn't be natural.
I do agree. For this particular movie, I don't think this should or can
Hell yeah.
Efficiently or whatever be remade. Like, I just don't see it happening.
The best case scenario for a remake will be to make us think like, wow, the original one is like so good, and here's why. To like remind people of why the best thing that this remake could do is make people go watch the original. Really.
It serves that'll serve the purpose. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But play devil's advocate, faithfulness to the original is not the only measure of a remake's value, right?
True.
Some of the best remakes use the source material as a starting point, and then they find something new. The Fly, The Thing specifically, Let Me In. The Thing is a really good example because the original was like a 1930s movie. Some would argue, and I don't agree, but some would argue that Parker Finn demonstrated with Smile that he could build this like uncomfortable dread and a sustained performance. Smile 2 specifically with what's her name? I can't remember the actress's name, but she did a really great job in Smile 2, and it kind of is like a similar like progressive breakdown.
Right. For sure, yeah.
And so that could be somewhat adjacent to what a possession thing would require. Robert Pattinson is producing this. I don't know how much of an impact he'll have on the actual final product, but he has done some weird roles in his life, like Good Time and Lighthouse and stuff like that. Yeah. So his involvement kind of makes me feel like it's not just a cynical cash grab. So at least it has that going for it.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes like, well, so then what does the remake need? Does it have to recreate the subway scene? Maybe it could find its own equivalent. Maybe the equivalent is actually interesting.
Yeah.
There are maybe some people out there that don't think that you need to protect movies from being remade.
There's definitely a lot of, I mean, they're mostly in suits and
right
behind this, but maybe they find their own lane. Maybe. So is it a remake or is it a reboot?
It's a remake. It's a remake.
So they're telling the exact same story, just
maybe not. That's what we're saying. So like The Thing.
Well, maybe so we don't know.
The Thing is a remake, but it's not an exact 1-to-1 remake. It's just the concept is that they remade the concept of
Yeah.
But John Carpenter took it and made it something all his own and inserted like the creature stuff and like the that movie's theme, which is like the distrust of the paranoia and stuff like that.
Yep.
So if Parker Finn could make it something that stands out on its own and introduces a new generation to the story, like I said, does that justify its existence? I don't think so. I think you could just leave it, and Parker Finn could be like, "Hey guys, I'm a horror director. Go watch this movie because it's really good," and that does the same thing. But what do I know?
I don't think it does the same thing though. To be honest,
no.
Like him just saying that, no, I don't think so. If he makes something good enough to where it makes people want to go see the original, I think that speaks way more volumes than him just being like, "Hey guys,
that's fair.
Go check out this movie."
That's fair because you're comparing it then at that point, and then people could see like, "Wow, this one is so much better than this one."
Yeah, I mean because that is gonna. There's just no way.
I mean,
that it doesn't happen that way. So
yeah. And I said at the beginning, like, or that the subway scene is like this moment in history that really is just physically impossible to, I think, capture twice.
Yeah.
I could sit here and writhe and go crazy all I want, but it's not going to be the same. Now you understand why I said what I said a couple of weeks ago when I did find out that this was getting remade. I was like, what? Like, what are we even doing right now? And that's honestly the reaction I've gotten from every single person I've brought this up to who likes horror movies, because I've been streaming, as you know, and like I'll talk about movies and stuff. Been marketing the podcast.
That's big.
And I'll say to people, I'm like, I'll bring it up. It's just like, oh, the Possession remake. And they're like, what? They're making a remake. It's like the reaction.
That's absurd.
It's the reaction every single person
somebody's
has.
Remaking Thriller.
Like Godfather or some shit.
You're going to remake Thriller?
Yeah.
You kidding me? Who do you think you are? I am.
Isabelle Adjani, I mean, she famously, again, said that she would never do anything like this again. And that's the whole argument right there, because some things just happen once. You just said it yourself. Like some things they just happen one time. And I don't know that Hollywood understands that. Clearly they don't.
Nope.
Because all we get is remakes and reboots and retools and prequels and this, that, and the other thing.
And AI likeness, like they don't care about respecting the original source. No. Even when it comes down to the actual human being themselves. So, no. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to sit here and make a prediction because it hasn't come out yet and we don't know anything about it really or what their plans are. But I will say I'm not optimistic, but I leave it open to the audience. What do you guys think? Leave us a comment. Let us know. Do you think that Possession is a movie that can be remade, that should be remade? I would venture to guess that most of you will say no. Be on our team. But I'm open to having my mind changed. So let us know what you think.
Having talked about it, it does change my opinion a little bit. I still think I wish it was more straightforward in, the message it was trying to portray. But
that's fair.
Like I said, I get why
they did
a lot of the things they did.
I don't think it was trying to portray a message. Like, I don't think he set out to just be like, hey, I want, like, I think it was just like a dump of like all his inner feelings or whatever. That's kind of how it always felt to me. Yeah, but the movie has a very lasting legacy. Like I said, it's a considered as a masterpiece. Despite, it's a rough and tumble movie. It's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. It's like, it's rough around the edges. It's raw and dirty and gritty. And like I said, sound quality sucks. And, and so it has a 7.2 on IMDb. I think that's a little bit low for what this movie achieved. Especially just with the performances alone, what the actors were able to like bring out of themselves. I think it deserves a much higher rating. So I would give it, I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 movie, but I do think I would give it like a 9.
Oh yeah. I give it a 9 too.
Okay.
Like, I have my issue with it. Really just the one issue, but outside of that, it was just fantastic. Yeah.
Okay. So you did like it. Why would I have been mad at that?
Like I said, it just wasn't the first non-perfect.
I wouldn't give it a perfect because
watch.
The only reason I wouldn't give it a perfect is because it's not a movie that I'm gonna like go out of my way to watch. Like I'm never gonna sit down. Like I'm very rarely gonna be like, oh, I really want to watch Possession, because it doesn't make you feel good. It's not a good feel good movie. You know what I mean? So that's my only thing.
Yeah. But now that I know more about like where the director was coming from and where he was going for, I could see myself enjoying a rewatch and understanding it better and not being as confused. So I think it does have some rewatchability for sure.
It totally does. Yeah, for sure. But there you have it, folks. There's our thoughts. There's Marvin's first time watching Possession, and our thoughts on whether or not it could be remade. Let us know what you think. Do you agree with us, or are you excited to see what Parker Finn has to bring to the table? We'll be interested to hear what you have to say. We do this once a week, folks. Our schedule has been a little bit disjointed this month, but life happens. But we post our schedule for the month over on Discord. You join our Discord, it's free to join, and we don't really inundate you with like notifications and stuff. It's just really for our schedule, and we post trailers and stuff there. So if you want to join, the link is below. Harshlanguage.tv. We love horror movies here on the channel, and we make Marvin watch new stuff that he hasn't seen once a month. When I say new stuff, new to Marvin, he's watched classics like Jaws for the first time here on this podcast, Halloween, you name it, he hasn't seen it, and we're doing our best to get him to see new stuff. So there'll be a playlist down there where you can see some of the other movies that we've made Marvin watch for the first time. Otherwise, we appreciate you hanging out. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.